Yeah, welcome to our club, My Life, My Business, with the tagline, Wish I Was Here, which speaks to a fully engaged, present state of mind and keenly enjoying every aspect of life. Now, last week we spoke about small moves, big changes in terms of making a difference to actually achieving your goals this year. So, yeah, I'm not going to regurgitate that. If you want to listen to what we discussed, you can either listen to the playback on Clubhouse or you can go to the Mufasa Coaching Practice, our YouTube channel, and listen to it there. But I'm very excited to really announce that this afternoon, Shanaz is going to present our talk. Handing over to Shanaz. Shanaz, the floor is yours.
Hi, Jacques. Thank you very much for that introduction. And after you spoke last week, and I remember I was saying about I am not like going all out for my goals this year. I'm like taking a back seat, and there's certain things that I will do. But because I'm like that big picture person, I tend to take on a lot of things, and then I find myself like by March or April that I haven't gone through them. And then you were suggesting little doing things in little small chunks, and I went to think about that, and like then I came across something that I had remembered, that when one of the big issues, and I also saw that you were calling about, you were kind of having this sort of semi title of enjoying our life. And then I was thinking, after really thinking about last week, I recall that one of the biggest issues that I find in the work that I do, whether that's with clients in counseling or speaking to groups of people, or even working with students and young people, etc. One of the and particularly also women, I find that the thing that we struggle with is the ability to say no. And I wanted to look into that because I recalled reading. I have you get those books, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and so I have a chicken soup for women, and one of the and I would always read this one short story, or actually a poem, at certain women's presentations when I've been asked to speak, and it always hits home to a lot of women. I'm not going to read it now, but basically it's about the this little girl called Angela who always said yes to everything. And then she becomes older, and she actually has this, she decides that has become invisible and her life isn't worth living. And then she decides actually that she is at that stage that she wants to take her life, and she says yes. And then all of a sudden she hears this sound in while coming from herself. She hears a voice inside herself saying no, and she realizes, and it repeats itself, no. And she says to herself, no. And she realizes she needs to say no in that moment. And what she started doing was learn to say no. And she realized that she had gotten to that state because she had said yes to too many things that she didn't agree with, yes to too many things that didn't work well for her, and she decided then to say no. And I was looking up that idea of saying no, and I thought to myself, to enjoy my life this year in 2023, I'm going to say no more often, and I'm going to try and understand and read up about the power of saying no. Then I came across a really interesting article because now I got very interested in saying no because you know what? Central to my work as a social worker and as a, I call myself a critical writer or scholar and an academic is the idea and central to social justice is the idea of saying no. And I wanted to tap into that and see what it's all about. Then I found an article by a global leader who is an advisor to is at Harvard and is been involved in a lot of negotiations, and he wrote an article on saying no. And what he said was that, firstly, he said, did we know that Tony Blair said it? He said, the art of leadership is not saying yes, it's saying no. And then this person, his name's William Ury, he says, no is the key to defining your strategic focus, and every important yes, therefore, may require thousands of no's. And I love that because I realized that in order for me to achieve some of my goals this year, in order to get a yes, perhaps I need to say a lot of no's. When people ask me out, when people ask me to do certain things for free, I need to say no. And I thought that what we know for women, this is a very big task also. And even I realized, even for leaders, and sometimes starting, startups, business startups, we want to take on everything because we need to get our business going. And so we take on a lot of work, perhaps, and contracts that we should not be taking on because we haven't learned to say no. And so then he said, and I loved what he said in this article. He said that, so he talks, the article is about a positive no. And he says that yes without no destroys one's own satisfaction, whereas no without yes destroys one's relationship without others. And so, what he suggests is that we need both yes and no together. And so what he says is then that it needs to then be a marriage between yes and no. Because he says, because yes, when we say yes, it's a key word for community and connection. And then the key word for and no then is the key word for individuality. He also says that yes is the key word of connection. No is the key word of protection. Yes is the key word of peace. And no is the key word of justice. And I kind of like that because central to the work when children or people experience difficulties or abuse, and been talking about violence, is this idea of no, being able to say no. And I think that that's something, being able to say no confidently is something that we all struggle with. And I just want to pause and kind of hear what you have to say thus far, Jacques, just your comment, because I know you're going to come back with something that is going to make me think before I continue again.
No, this is quite awesome. In actual fact, I want you to just, if you can, and I know people can go listen to this again, but regurgitation or repeating it reinforces it. But I was listening to, and I was trying to scribble notes while I lost my way. But just the first and foremost, the marriage of yes and no, the relationship between yes and no, salt and pepper, it's joint. um, and I keep on thinking, I mean, this is so obvious, that um, for a no, a no exists within a framework of some yeses or some nos. And it's interesting to me that you're quoting, what's his name, William Ury, you said, right? Or Jury?
Yes, yes, Yuri, you are
Ury.
why. Yeah.
Ury. Oh, okay, Yuri. It's and I'm not sure if I got it right, but saying no is the key of defining my strategic focus. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. He says no is the key to defining your strategic focus. So, in
Wow.
other words, and that's what happened, and I think that's what kind of happens is that because you mentioned that the distractions come, we write down those goals, and then the distractions come, and we have to say no to the distractions. But often our need, because of a range of different things, is to then just say yes. It's easier to say yes to something than it is to say no. And what I've discovered is that generally as adults, as people, we do struggle to say no. But yet he says that it's so important then to get our focus. What is my strategic focus for this year?
Um, I'm just reminded of a story. I don't want to take away from your focus of what you're presenting, but I remember there was one time I was asked to provide some mentorship and some guidance to a group of companies where they wanted somebody to look after the finances for a bit, etc. And in order to get the discipline going, I had to say a lot of no's to some fantastic people. And one day, one of the middle managers got so upset with me and he says, "You know what, Jacques? You have become the abominable no man." I've never forgotten that bit. And because all I ended up saying was no, no, we can't do this, no, we can't do this. But listen, we want discipline in this particular area. So you can't say, um, you know, we would like to be we'd like to be more thrifty, we would like to be far more efficient and especially cost efficient in what we're doing if you're not willing to say no. Yeah, so I don't know where you're going to take us, but I guess saying no is both internal and external. There's external pressure, and you got to decide whether you want to yield to that external pressure. But then you have the internal pressure, where it's easier rather than sitting and working on something that you want to achieve. It's easier to go with what's easier. It's or what's more comfortable or what is more familiar, and
Yeah,
so on.
yeah. So I agree. So they seem, and the way he kind of discusses it is really great. He says that that how do we do it? So this marriage between, and it's like literally says this marriage between the yes and the no. So he says that the great art is to learn to integrate the two, to marry yes and no. That is the secret to standing up for yourself and what you need without destroying valuable agreements and precious relationships. So this guy was also like in terms of negotiating peace deals in the Middle East, and he, there are times that you needing to say no so that war doesn't actually take place. And so we can't just say yes all the time. And so maybe for us, if we take it on our personal level, the internal war, as you said, this internal and external, this internal warring that goes on with you is actually so important, I think, of the process. Because when we say no, we start to think about what is my focus, and how do I achieve and maintain that focus, which does mean that I do need to say no to a lot of things. And he was saying that he's chatting to an investor, and this investor says to him he doesn't understand this thing about saying yes. He says for him in his business the most important word is no. He's got to look through so many proposals and choose the right investment. And so I realized that in order to enjoy our life and achieve my goals this year, I need to learn to say no to a number of things that are possibly going to come my way. And then I just wanted to kind of add what he said is he says he talks about a positive no. And he says that this is what he said about what is a positive no. He says a positive no, in short, is a yes, no, yes. The first yes expresses your needs and your values. The no then asserts your power and your choice. And the second yes furthers your relationship. And key to this relationship is the respect for yourself and the other person. And so when I thought about this, to put it into practice, I had the situation where I think I mentioned it previously. I have the student who loves the community. Well, she's no longer my student. She's, working. So we know each, we sort of colleagues now in a sense. And she works in a government department who does important work. And she wanted me to do some training at a time that I was really busy. And then I said, yes, I would do the training. And then we started to talk and chat. And then I had to say no. Then I had to say no again because of particular issues. They decided that they wanted me to do this training free. And I had made this um arrangement in my head that I'm not going, because of the amount of time it takes me and the kind of quality, which is talking about my values, the quality that I want to deliver and what I do when I speak about these issues. I need to say no. And then what then happened was I said yes again, because now what she and I are doing is working on an article and writing an article about some of the work that she was involved with, so that we can share it with as many people as possible. And I realized, oh my word, this does work. Having that was a positive no. It wasn't like I completely said no and we did nothing, where I would have hurt the relationship I have with her, but I was still able to exercise um, my power. And so I really like the idea of a positive no. And maybe that's what I sort of need, and that's what we need to think about when we, as whether we are as women, because women always talk about they take on so much and it's very challenging to say no, whether it's in your family life, in your career, or in your sort of in your personal life. They take on many. I mean, I recently spoke to someone I was busy counseling, and they're in a top position, but they've taken on so much more than what they can actually manage, that it's not actually good. She started not enjoying a career which she actually loves. And I realized that, this is what I hear on a regular basis, is this inability to say no, or a positive no, or think about it in a positive way. So yes, so that's any then I don't what I also want to then say then is that the other thing, and we can talk about this, is he then says that no is the gift that I give to myself. And I loved this. And I thought to myself, no is the gift I'm going to give to myself in 2023. And so he says, in saying no, well, we are giving ourselves a gift. We are protecting someone or something we value. We are creating time and space for something we want. We are changing the situation for the better. And all the while keeping our friends, colleagues, and customers. In short, we are being true to ourselves. And he says, through the simply daily practice of saying no positively, we are contributing to the quality of our lives, our success at work, and our happiness at home. It is a gift we owe to ourselves. And I think that in my practice and in my, whether it's students I work with or people I'm counseling, this comes to the fore in so many of their challenges. These are talented people with great ideas who actually really struggle to say no. And just on a funny note, I decided I need to embrace the word no. So there is this person that I was dating, and I decided that I'm going to embrace no. So each time they would say no to me, I would think of one day it's going to be a yes, and it was a yes one day. And to a friend of one or two friends of mine who are unemployed at the moment, I said to them, you know what? If you come back to me with 100 no's of the CVs you sent out, then I will listen to you. But if you haven't received 100 no's, then you still haven't sent it out to enough people. And when I think about that, I need to apply that to myself and actually see the saying no as a gift to myself. So yeah, so that's me for now.
No, but this is so great. I mean, you know, you're touching on something that everybody is plagued with, and you know, as you're talking, and using this example, um, was it leap year when when you were asking him questions and he was saying no? Was it a marriage proposal?
No, no, it wasn't a marriage proposal. It was a range of a range of different things.
Okay.
And so yeah, I was clearly quite focused with that particular issue. So, but the idea was that I think that we need to become comfortable with saying no. And I
Yeah.
learned this actually when I think about it. I learned it from a friend who is going into an acting career. That actresses need to learn to accept rejection and say no, because because most of the answers that they receive is going to be no. But there will be, and he says that in the beginning, that for the right yes, there will be thousands of no's. And for me, when I think about moms and women, whether that's in the job or with their own families or ourselves who struggle to say no, I think in a sense, when we just say yes to people all the time, and thinking of children, for example, or adults that we are mentoring, then actually we don't set them up to learn that actually no can be a gift. We can be protecting them. They could be protecting others or themselves if they learn to say no and see no as a gift.
Awesome. It definitely is. You know, when we talk to any person about sales, and the whole prospect of cold calling comes up, and before you can even get past the receptionist, the gatekeeper, you experience that no as rejection. And I think it probably sets us up that way, that we don't enjoy it when we receive the no, that we don't want to, in our own minds, reject others as a consequence, when actually we're not rejecting anybody. And that no is that person exercising their absolute right. They have a right to say no. But in sales, we are taught never to accept no. Not because you see it as rejection, but each no that you receive is just an invitation to satisfy your curiosity to find out why is it a no. Do you understand? So when you are sharing your example with a colleague of yours, when initially it was a no, and when you stuck to your guns, however, when you started working through, you found that place, that point, that intersection point for effective collaboration, because there was now a better understanding of what the boundaries are, because no establishes a boundary, I think. And if you know where the boundaries are, I don't know if it works like this psychologically, but you know how we all like as babies to be swaddled and feel a sense of security. I think we all love to know where the boundaries are. Even if you're kind of a rebel, you need to know that there are boundaries that you want to rebel against. Without boundaries, there's just absolute chaos. And funnily enough, a sense of insecurity. So I don't want to go so deep into that, but um, no is not a rejection um, per se. Somebody says, no, I don't want this from you. I don't want that from you. And you're saying to get the right yes, you have to experience so many no's. But you have to join the chorus of, of no's. You've got to be comfortable saying no and not think you are hurting anybody if this is now externally. Um, and yeah, just that thought, and I want you to come in here, is to be able to say, listen, it's no for now, even if you want to manage this process, but it's only no for now, and it's in context, and it's nothing personal, even though the other person might still take it personally. It is nothing personal, because I think that yes no framework you presented is actually quite awesome, with the values and the power and the relationship. Wonderful.
Yeah, so you touched on an important thing, talking about the boundaries. So it is about the boundaries, and I mean, we can have a long, detailed psychological discussion about, but we're not going to do that. That boundaries are
Sure.
so essential for your mental health, they're so essential for all relationships, for your success. And a lot of that. So when we struggle, then if you find that you are struggling with saying no to people, then it is an indication of those earlier childhood years where your parents, and we go back to the authority within, where you may have struggled with the no's of your parents, or what Yuri actually says is that no, just a flat no, can actually destroy relationships. And so maybe we haven't, some of us have not experienced that no in a positive context. And so that is why when we could go either extreme in terms of the inability to say no, or the struggle, the constant struggle to say no, or we go and we do a complete no, which, like, as in, it's a shutdown of communication, a silent treatment, and that becomes problematic, where the person isn't approachable at all. And that's then an indication that there's some work that we would need to do, that we need to do for ourselves, on, so that we can exercise, and yeah, we can exercise that authority, that inward authority that you spoke about, the internal no that we're saying, yeah. And I think that that's important for one's success.
And it's it's one thing externally, but just saying no to all kinds of things that's happening within you, not when temptations come, when you know it's going to take you away from your goal, is making it a positive no, making it, establishing a constructive boundary, because it's a positive no. It is no. I'm just talking to myself here, Shanaz. Is like, it's not no forever, but it's no for now, so that I can focus on the thing that I've set myself to do. So it's no for now, and I've made the choice. And I guess this feeds into why it's so difficult for people to prioritize. Because when you prioritize, you got to say no to some things while you focus on others.
Absolutely. And I think that in my big goal setting, big vision personality, and I see that in my sister, she's very similar to me. She takes on too many things, and then she has this, we have a joke between ourselves, we'll rest when we're dead. So when we die, so that's when we'll rest. But I've really started to embrace the idea of focus, and kind of just loved what he said, that no then is the key to defining my strategic focus, and no is probably then the key to defining your purpose as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. So when we are planning, when we are setting our goals, or when we're reviewing the things that we are going to do, that we would like to achieve, key to this conversation we're having with ourselves is, what do I have to say no to? That has to be part and parcel of this process. So Shanaz, it's we've run out of time, but this is a riveting conversation and practical. I guess anybody listening to this can kind of take a leaf out of it, be inspired, and listen. Let's be honest. For some of us, we say no, but it's the no that is a destructive no. It's a no that is like a javelin, like a sword. You want to stick it to the person. No, none of those things. We're talking about positive no's. And in fact, this I think, Shana, as you set up the theme for me as well, is that I'm going to focus on positive no's. If somebody gives me a no, I'm not going to automatically assume it's a negative no. I'm going to turn it into a positive. I'm going to reframe it into a positive no by being curious, by staying the course, and then staying focused on achieving my goal. Sometimes you need other people to say yes, and if they initially say no, you make sure that you build the relationship, you understand why the no exists, and you understand that in yourself it's not rejection at all. So it goes both ways. I guess it's both how we interact with people, because I think whatever our experiences externally with others, we kind of go, that is such a bad thing to do, so I'm not going to do it. So we got to kind of embrace it for ourselves, embrace the ability to express the positive no, and then also work on, perhaps, I don't know if this is something at all, but to turn the no's we receive into positive ones, so that in the end we can achieve our goals and enjoy our lives while doing so.
Yep,
So
that sounds great. Thank you, Jacques.
thank you, Shanaz. And this has been absolutely brilliant. So have a fantastic week. Until next week.